Doctor 21 and model at 57. Dr. Gita Prakash is my doctor and the most positive person I've met. She started her career as an army doctor for 10 years, a medical consultant, family doctor, and even a radio jockey discussing health. And I'm so excited for you to hear her take on health and longevity. Okay, doctor, I'm so happy you're my guest today.
I'm so thrilled to be here, really.
Okay, so let's begin with the basics. I want to ask you, what's the healthiest morning routine to have?
Actually, if you look at it, there are two things. One is your food and one is your exercise. Those are the two things that are really, that keep everybody, healthy, whatever age group you are. So as far as possible, you should try and go for a morning walk, because and especially in Delhi, because of course in winters it's a little smoggy, but otherwise a walk is the best way for any age group to keep healthy, especially for the elderly, which I keep meeting. I keep telling them, walk every day in the morning for about 45 minutes and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, you must, like in summers, you should rehydrate yourself, of course.
Right.
But otherwise you should eat a little bit. We're all into this intermittent fasting kind of thing.
Exactly.
But it doesn't work with everybody. So I feel that if you have your 5 badams and your 2 akhrots, that is a good thing to do. Have your green tea if you don't want to have a normal sort of a milky tea. So that is something. You should eat a little bit to break your fast, and you should make sure that you walk every morning. I think these are the two things that are good for you.
So this is a message for people who skip breakfast really often as well. That's something that should not
Not a good thing. See, I have to tell you, there are a lot of things you have to take into consideration. There are people who have gastritis, who have stomach ailments. There are people who are diabetics. There are people who are hypertension. There are normal young children who are stressed. If you don't eat properly, the acid production becomes a lot.
Okay.
And then that can give rise to other ailments, like acidity or ulcers or something. So I feel eat smaller meals, but eat regularly. That is a good thing to do.
Okay, you mentioned intermittent fasting. There's a lot of wellness trends today. But what is one wellness trend you would never try, even as a doctor?
I think staying empty stomach for too long. That is one thing. And maybe I wouldn't take any medication without a reason. That's the other thing that I feel a lot of kids do today. Supplements and even other medication. They feel that it's okay to take it. That I feel is not really a good thing to do.
Okay. So what should people know before taking supplements?
Because there are so many supplements in the market. So there are two kinds. One is the powders that you get, like children who are going to the gym, they want to take protein powder, but they don't always have somebody to guide them. If you have the trainer who is in the gym itself and tells you, okay, you take this, but within so much, don't go overboard. Kids feel, if I take a little extra supplement, mere muscles bade ho jayenge.
Yeah.
But that's not really true, because that can affect your kidneys if you don't drink enough water and if you take too much protein. First thing. Second thing is regarding vitamin supplements. We feel that if you're taking एक बार test किया, and supposing it is low, they continue taking the vitamins because they feel that it's going to keep them going. But you have to keep checking again and again. You shouldn't go over.
Right.
Some of these are okay because, like a vitamin B is a water-soluble thing. So it will flush out from your system if you stop taking it. But some of them are oil-bound. They get stuck in the fat in your bodies. So then you don't want to be taking too many of those. So I think you have to be sensible about what you are taking. Get yourself checked out first. If you are deficient in a particular thing, take it. It's a good thing to do. But then after 3 months or 4 months, check it out again.
Right.
You may not need it the same amount for 1 year. You may need it for maybe 3 months or 4 months. And after that, you just need to sort of cut it down a little bit, maybe take it twice a week or whatever. So I think where supplements are concerned, you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Never overdo it. Never underdo it. Some people feel, "Arey kya hai? Doodh dahi pee lenge. Why do I need a vitamin D?"
Yeah,
That is also not a right attitude. So you have to be a little sensible about the way you take your supplements.
It really depends on your body's levels.
Yeah. And also how your body is going to break it down. Everyone's not the same. You may need a vitamin D once a week. I may need it only once in 2 weeks.
Right.
So that is why you have to keep following up whatever you do. Anything you put in your body, you have to regulate. But just remember that.
That's such a good way to put it. Anything you put in your
Yeah,
body, you have to
anything.
regulate. Yeah, because like a lot of Indians, I have vitamin D deficiency as well. But then I was told that, keep monitoring your levels instead of taking that medication endlessly.
Which they say कि एक साल के लिए खा लो. No, I always say 3 months and check.
Right. Similar to supplements, another wellness trend is that a lot of people are now taking IV drips. In fact, there are clinics that are, just provide IV drips to people who walk in. What's your take on that?
Awful. No, I don't mean it like that. What I'm trying to say is, see, there has to be a reason for it. If you're dehydrated, get an IV drip. That also you have to know, am I diabetic? Am I hypertensive? Accordingly, I need a particular drip. But just taking a drip for nothing doesn't make sense to me. But if you've had a tummy upset, or you've had high fever and you're getting dehydrated, or the fevers are very high, and so you need to take supplements, or you need to take a paracetamol drip, that is okay. But just taking an IV drip for what? For what? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I know that's true. Like I got my iron IV drip once because I was severely anemic at
So
one
then
point.
you need it. But if you don't, I mean, just because you say, I think I'm feeling tired, I think I'm low on iron. It's not think. You have to get a proper test done to make sure that you are really like that. And if you are, certainly, you'll probably need it for 3 injections. I'm not saying only 1. You may need 3 drips. But it depends on how severely anemic you are.
Right.
Or if you really need anything. If you are, sometimes they say calcium is low, sometimes you may need that. Or like I said, if you're dehydrated, maybe you'll need that. Or if you have maybe an ailment like a typhoid or something which needs to be, or you're vomiting a lot, then you may need a drip with something to reduce the vomiting. I mean, be sensible about what you do. Just take an IV drip just because I think I'm a little weak, so I need an IV drip. ऐसे नहीं होता है. That's not the right attitude, I feel. So just giving a drip, and also, like I said, it depends. If you're diabetic, you can't take a dextrose with normal saline. If you're hypertensive, you can't take saline. You'll need just, something different, because it will aggravate your illness otherwise. That's why you have to be careful.
It's so important for a lot of people to know.
Really.
I want to ask you, what do your healthiest and longest living patients have in common?
Gratitude and be happy.
Really?
I'm not joking. Lots of elderly people will have ailments, because a lot of illnesses come on once you're a little older. They may be diabetic. They accept what the problem is and they deal with it. And they don't deal with it negatively. Choo-choo nahi karte hain. They say, dawai khani hai, khayenge. Chalo ikatthe sair karne jayenge. That's such a happy, it's the companionship and it's the acceptance and the gratitude that I don't have anything else which is worse. And I can just sort of look forward to another new day. I think that is one very important thing.
That's so inspiring to hear doctors telling us that gratitude is the most important thing.
It is very important. I feel we are just extensions. जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना आजकल तो the phone is an extension of your hand. The same way, we are extensions, I hope and believe, of what God has sent us here to do. Yeah, so we are doing what we are doing. But finally, it's Him who makes up all the decisions. We have to take the correct ones where we can. But I think this is just having a healthy lifestyle, keeping happy. That's very important. In today's world, everyone you look at is stressed. Whatever age group, whether in school, whether they are going for college, whether they are just starting jobs or they're in the middle of a job, everyone seems to be stressed out. How many kids come to me? Kids, I would say, around the age of 24, 25. Going up to the age of 40, who can't sleep, who have a problem because they find that they don't have the time to eat properly. Little things like that are so important, and you're so lucky, most of you, that you can afford whatever you have, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very true. And I think stress is something that we see in every age group now. It's not something that's increasing with age anymore, I feel.
Absolutely. Today I got a young girl who's been laid off her job. And she was so hassled, I can't tell you. I told her, this is like God's way of saying, you need a little time out. So sit back and think about what you really want to do. Maybe there were certain things you wanted to do which you couldn't because of your job, because you were working 8 to 10 or something. I said, if you want to do an online course or you want to do something else, 4 to 3 months till you decide what you want to take further. Don't stress about it. By stressing, you're just making yourself unhappy. And stress is something that sucks you in.
Yeah.
You just become worse and worse and you can't think straight and it's very pathetic really. Yeah. But you can't help it because this is part of life. जब तक जिंदगी है तब तक उलझने तो रहेंगी. But that's okay. That's okay. But you should just, I think, take it a little easy. Take one day at a time. When, especially in a situation like this, I can imagine for a 35, 36-year-old girl to suddenly find that, she doesn't have a job. There are any forms of stress, yeah. You look at mothers, they're stressed about the children. Children are stressed about what they're doing. Grandparents are stressed about grandchildren. Like, relax.
Everyone's stressed about each other.
Yeah. But life's been like that. I think we've reached an era where this is true. I grew up in Shimla, where the only fun we had was going down to the graveyards and digging. We used to put plants. Mali used to take me there. There was a potter's wheel where we used to do whatever. There was a hillside full of daisies and we used to make daisy chains and put them around our heads and necks.
Wow.
And we were really the flower children, what they used to call us. But seriously, I'm not joking. Now I look at life, it's become so mechanical, technologically challenged. That's what I am according to the children, which I agree. I'm very happy that we are moving ahead. But at the same time, we are sort of missing out on the little fun things of life, I feel.
Simpler times, I would say.
Yeah.
But talking about stress and anxiety, are they showing up more in the body than the mind also now?
Both things, because you find that the blood pressures are going high. People who are stressed, their diabetes is out of control. Then because they can't sleep properly, they get mood swings. So that is mainly what you find, especially these illnesses which are related to lifestyle. Because when you're stressed, you find you can't go for a walk, you put on weight, then there's a little depression because you can't lose that weight. So every little thing is really falls back on the stress in your mind. So you have to keep your mind calm. I always say when you're stressed and you feel palpitation, you feel you can't deal with the problem, sit back and relax. Close your eyes, take 10 deep breaths, have a glass of cold water, it will pass. 99% it will pass, or it will give you an idea of how you should deal with it. But if you're going to say, oh God, what am I going to do? Then you're just going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, true. In fact, one thing I tell myself if I'm feeling anxious or if I'm feeling very stressed is, what really helps is reminding myself it's a feeling and the feeling will pass.
Because this too shall pass.
Exactly.
Like my nanny used to tell me, good times pass, so bad times have to. So you should just remember that. But you have to go through that phase, to get to the next one. So if you don't deal with it positively, then it just sort of keeps you back. You can't get into the next phase where things will improve. It's sad, but this is how life is today. I look at the change in our lives. We were born in the 50s and then we came into the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, went through college, everything. Today, look at college. I feel if I had to give an exam, I'd fail everything.
Really?
Seriously. There's so much chaos happening, and the kind of competition that the children have to face. So stress to hoega na phir.
Yeah.
What do you do? Hamare to subha when we used to go, Mummy used to give us dahi and chini and say jao, and we would say ja rahe. We used to walk our way to the next exam place and just sort of come back. But today it's a different sort of ball game altogether. But anyway, I think children are also more accustomed to it.
Yeah.
For us, we find it difficult because we are not used to it. But for kids, they're used to this kind of a life, where
we've noticed younger people are having heart attacks these days. What's the reason behind that?
One is, like I said, the environment. Because, they're eating more fast food. They're having more oily food. Jaldi se kuch nahi hai, chalo, let's get a burger or a pizza. That's definitely not as healthy as ghar ka khana. No?
Definitely.
For one. Second thing I think is, like I said, the targets they have to meet. Everything sort of plays on the mind constantly and always is reflected somewhere in the body. So when I take a history and I ask them, parents ko kya hua tha? Nahi, unko to blood pressure tha after the age of 70. I always tell them, jo 70 mein hua tha na, abhi 40 mein ho raha hai. But that's really what's happening. Because, they don't get a chance to go out. You're going from your house to the gym. I have nothing against it, but they never see the sun. You go to work early in the morning, you come back late at night, and then you go to work out somewhere. So you haven't seen the sunshine. Where's the vitamin D going to come from? There's no fresh air. Everyone says Delhi mein kaun sa fresh air hai. But there is fresh air. You know, just walking around is so therapeutic in the morning. You hear the birds, you look at the trees around you, the sun comes up. Hello, sun god. What I'm trying to say is everything is closed now. You have to work, you have to go here, you have to do this. It's like mechanical. Half the time I feel you don't have a chance to really enjoy your day. Maybe on a Saturday, Sunday you do go out. But then you go out to a party, then again it's in one, okay, singing and dancing and whatever. That's a good thing also. There should be a little more relaxation in your day. I just feel because of that, everything builds up. BP goes up, you get a sudden high, you get a stroke, you get a heart attack. Anything can happen. Mm-hmm. And of course, there are some illnesses which are hereditary also. So those you have to be a little careful of. If you know that there's a family history of heart attacks or high blood pressure or diabetes or strokes, then you should be that, or cancers. You have to be that much more careful. Also, I feel you should do regular checkups. That becomes very important.
Which brings me to my next question. What are some tests every man and woman should do before it's too late?
See, when you're young children, that time you should check for your vitamin levels. School-going kids. Because I find even they are low in vitamin D, a lot of them. I used to work with the junior school for a long time. Also, I think eyesight. Nobody pays attention to that too much, And so little kids go get a problem pretty bad before it's actually discovered. Then, so when they are young children, then you should go regularly to the pediatrician, get your vaccinations done and stuff like that. Then I think when you're about 17, 18, 19, now children who are joining universities, it's good that they have to undergo a certain amount of testing and make sure their vaccinations are done.
Shots as well.
Shots. Then the other time is, when you're pre-employment. That is 21, 22 years of age. I'm glad that everybody usually has a pre-employment exam that has to be done. So again, you're getting checked up. So it's like fairly regular. Then till the age of about 40, you should do it every 2-3 years.
2-3 years.
Then after 40, you have to be a little more careful. And in women, of course, we have to be careful about the mammograms. You have to be careful about bone densities once you reach menopause, because that's when our hormones become less and we are no longer protected to, where our bones are concerned or our heart is concerned, which our hormones protect when you're younger. So in the sense that you have to be a little careful to do it regularly. After the age of 40, 45, I'd say do it every year. May not be a deep, full investigation, but things that maybe like a lipid profile, cholesterol, and if you have a thyroid problem, then your thyroid. So problems that you have should be done every year. Otherwise, you can do it alternate years.
Yeah, I find that we keep telling our parents who have crossed 50 now to get their checkups done every year. But a lot of people don't. I feel like it's something people take for granted until it's too late and there's a warning sign that comes up. But what is one thing that's aging people faster than anything else?
I think one is diet. Because, earlier we had a very sensible kind of a diet that we used to follow. Now, I always say 6 days a week you should eat at home, 7th day cheat. Eat whatever you want to eat. Or maybe twice a week if you want to go out. So diet is very important. And exercise, like I said. Most people say we don't have the time. Yeah. You have to make the time. Because if you don't exercise, there's no way that you can remain healthy. Overweight. That leads to 20 other problems. So that is something you should look at. And also, like I said, your vaccinations. People don't agree with me. A lot of people feel that, this is just a scam. We don't need so many vaccinations. But मैं बताऊं, अगर किसी को हम flu vaccine देते हैं, and if they do get some form of flu, it's never as bad as it would have been if you had not taken the vaccine.
Because it gives you the antibodies.
Certain amount of immunity. Then in young girls, we say cervical cancer vaccines.
Yeah.
A lot of women feel now, what's the big deal? I mean, she's going to be married to one person. It's not like she's going to have multiple partners. But that does still give you 60% or 70% of immunity against cancer, one particular kind of cancer. So why not do that? So what I'm just trying to say is that you have to be a little more broad-minded about everything. And if you know that you have high blood pressure, if you know that you have a whatever problem, like a sugar problem, just go and make sure that you're also getting your eyes checked if you're diabetic. Make sure you're getting your kidneys checked. ये नहीं कि blood sugar करके आगे भाई हम ठीक है. because it affects every part of your body. So I think that is something that we should be careful about, complications of any illness.
Yeah, in fact, I have people in my family who are diabetic, and eye checkups for diabetes. This is the first time I'm hearing that. Right after talking to you, I want to go call them and say, have you got your eye tests done?
See, the kidneys and the eyes are very commonly affected if you're diabetic. And skin, you tend to get a lot of skin problems when you are diabetic. Rashes and dermatitis, as they call it, or you can get fungal infections. So you have to be a little careful.
Okay. In fact, I came to you recently for a tetanus shot.
Yeah.
And I remember you told me a tetanus shot should be done every year, because otherwise I've heard that 5 years.
See, 5 years, but if you get injured badly, or it is something that we worry could lead to something, then you must take it again. Though they say it is for 5 years. So if you're not injured, you're covered for 5 years. But supposing you get a deep cut or something, then I would give it, because you see, there's no cure for tetanus. And if that one shot is going to help, it's worth it. That's the only thing.
So, doctor, a lot of people are always tired these days, even if their blood reports are normal. So why is that?
I think they're just bored. Also, I think they don't exercise enough. They're in the same rut. You go to work, you come back, you do this, you do that. There's nothing to look forward to. Yeah. I'm so tired of doing this. That's the kind of reaction. It's not that they're tired. It's just that they're tired of doing what they're doing. Or maybe they don't have enough, something to look forward to every day.
Yeah, I think the way you were saying, it's become mechanical now. Wake up, go to the gym, go to work. I realized when you were saying that, I was thinking I'm guilty of this as well. And I definitely don't get any sun. I've just started going for walks, maybe in the park. That also late evening, because I don't want the sun on my face. But this is very eye-opening, definitely.
Yeah, and also, for the elderly, it's very important to walk out. You're sitting at home the whole day. You go out in the evening, you go for a walk in a park, you meet the same person 4 or 5 times. The 5th time, you'll smile at that person, they'll smile back at you. You communicate with somebody.
Right.
It's not that the loneliness goes away. Especially for single elderly people. That is the other thing. I just feel it's so important to communicate on a level which is not only what are you giving me, what am I giving you.
Right.
It's being friends,
Yeah.
I mean, you just walk together for a little while, you chat, you talk about, the kids, the grandkids, the whatever, and you come back. But you come back with a smile on your face, rather than just sitting at home and doing your one treadmill or one exercise, which you're not doing, especially in the elderly who are alone.
So these are the benefits of walking outside versus just having a treadmill inside your house.
See, it's okay when there's a lot of pollution, when it's very cold or it's too hot, you can't go out. But that time, ठीक है, gym में जाओ. So everyone says gym में तो लोग मिल जाते हैं. I said, but you're constantly looking in front of the television and you're walking. It's very rarely that you actually sit down and say, अच्छा यार, I finished mine. Why don't we sit and have a cup of coffee? I don't think very many people do that, because they go to the gym and then they either have to come back or they have to go to office.
Speaking of being home brings me to a really important question. I believe there are a lot of household products and kitchen products that are carcinogenic. So what should we be using instead?
2-3 things. MSG, we knew that was causing a lot of problems. Some of the things that they put into Chinese cooking also. Also, things that we heat in plastic in microwaves, because plastic has a problem. So you should have a good quality plastic or do it in a shishe ka bowl.
Okay.
Also, water bottles. We keep water in plastic very often in the cars.
Yes.
That's not a good thing to do, because they say that it, throws out a few micro things into the water which can be carcinogenic. So that is more than anything else. Baki to hum kya use karte? The normal masalas and all you use are fine, but these are things you should be careful about. Certain additives, then also in preservatives, you should be careful about that, because some preservatives could be carcinogenic. So these are the main things that you have to be. Remember that. Think about whatever you're doing. But this plastic thing is very common. Patla plastic mein, if something is lying in the fridge, you just take off the lid and stick it in the microwave.
Yeah.
But that's not the right thing to do. Wo plastic thoda tera bhi ho jata hai kai baar. And that we don't know what is going into the food. Which part of that plastic is actually penetrating into the khana. So you shouldn't do that. You should make sure whenever you, especially microwave, And even otherwise, these non-stick pans, when the non-stick comes off, then they say, it may be not very healthy to eat in that.
So what are some alternatives to non-stick pans?
So I think in our time, what we used to have was, we used to have these kadais which we used to cook in, or pans or patilas, but it always had a layer of kalai in it, which used to protect it from toxins coming into the food, as it were. So that is what there was. So now it's a non-stick. So it's excellent as such. But the other thing I wanted to say was that once it wears out, then it may not be as effective.
Okay.
Once the non-stick wears off. So that's one thing. Also, we use a lot of reusing oil. That's not a good healthy thing.
Reusing oil.
Yeah. So when you go out and you say samosa khate hain, and he's frying something, he's probably frying it back in something which has been already used.
Right, of course.
So that is not very healthy. That you should be careful about, which sometimes can give you a problem.
Okay. And at home, what kind of oils should we be using on a daily
We always say you
basis?
should change the oil. Olive oil, if you're using, you should use it in your salads. It's healthy. It gives you your good cholesterol goes up, the HDL. And otherwise also, you can keep changing. You don't have to be on the same oil. The only thing is the quantity of oil. अब सब बोलते हैं हम घी खाते हैं जी, but they have one kadchi of ghee instead of one chammach of ghee. Then there is a problem.
That's a lot of fat.
It's a lot of fat, but it's the good fat also. So ghee is not bad. But the only thing is the quantity of any oil, whether it's peanut oil or it's sarson ka tel or whether it's sunflower oil or whatever it is. Quantity matters. You should put it with a spoon. We sort of just pour it in and say, oh, I must have put about 2 teaspoons. Rubbish. It must be about 1 kadai of it, 1 kadchi.
Right.
So just be careful about the quantities.
Okay.
I think that you have to be careful.
Nothing in excess, basically.
Nothing. You should have everything, but keep it within control.
Okay. So we started with our morning routine and how to start the day. Now let's talk about how we end the day. And I know I'm guilty of this. A lot of people are being on our phones right before sleeping and our overall quality of sleep.
So what happens is, I think our screen time is too long. See, you're working in the office, you're working on computers.
Yeah.
You come back and you're working on laptops. And then you're watching the television. And then before you sleep, you want to sort of get onto Instagram and watch reels. I just feel that your screen time is too much. So about an hour before you want to sleep, put it off and lock that phone into your cupboard so you don't get tempted to look at it. Otherwise, every time there's a ping, you say, Are, let me see what's up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a normal, natural tendency. But you should try not to do that. In fact, we used to say, don't watch movies which are too violent or there's too much action in it, because the mind sort of gets geared up, Then where's the calm? Sleep hygiene. You're supposed to have low lighting, or you have a bedside lamp which you can read in. Read books which sort of calm you down, or listen to music or something like that. But you shouldn't be on the screen all the time. Today, I think 18 to 20 hours a day, everyone's on the screen. If they are awake, they're on screen.
That's true.
So that is something we should change.
Yeah.
आंखें भी खराब हो जाती हैं, tension भी हो जाती है. Then you're always sort of trying to compete. Yeah, that one's doing this. Should I also be doing this? She's put this on Instagram. What about me? There are a lot of things that come up with this. So screen time may be positive in the sense that you can deal with a lot of issues, and you can sort of send messages and stuff all over the world. You're connected totally globally. But at the same time, this I think you should be careful about.
Yeah.
Before you sleep, screen time off.
Yeah, in fact, every night my husband and I, one of us has to say, let's put our phones away,
Very good thought. That's the right thing to do. To at least have a peaceful night, without worrying about, oh God, I just saw that. Do you think I need to check what has what the office has said? Or do you think there's something that I need to look at? No. After a certain time, you don't need to look at anything. I mean, working hours are only till a particular time. I know it's difficult. Today, everyone works. Some people work America hours, some people work England hours, some people work some. That's fine. But at the same time, have some kind of restriction in how much you do screen time.
So reducing our screen time before sleeping will give us better sleep quality. But how will better sleep quality affect our overall lives?
If you sleep well, you can think the next morning. Otherwise, you're already muddled in your head. You don't know what to start your day with. You're starting off with a mind full of problems. Don't do that. Have a good sleep. Get up refreshed. go for a walk, have a nice cup of tea, have your, I always say nuts are good for you early in the morning. And then start your day. Start your day positively. Not with 100 things from yesterday being flung into your face.
Carrying on to the next day.
Never sleep with work to be carried on. Never sleep on a fight.
Really?
This is something I try and tell all young children, especially newly marrieds or those who are a couple of years into marriage. I always say, if you sleep on a fight, it just snowballs. Where is the calm in the mind then?
Exactly.
So don't sleep on fights. Don't sleep with your phone under your pillow.
That's such a good thought to end this on. Don't sleep on a fight. Okay, well, I think we've learned so much today about our basics, but they are so relevant. How we wake up, how we eat, go about our day, how we sleep. So I really want to thank you. There's so much to take away from today.
Thank you so much. I was so glad to be here. It's such fun, to be able to, just communicate with everybody and learn your views also.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a give and take thing.
And having a doctor as positive as you is, I think, something everyone needs to hear more from.
Thank you so much.